Okay, bye now.
I think we started the YouTube as well, so
Yes.
let's get into this. So, hey everyone, my name is Elizabeth.
And I'm Tara.
Actually, I go by Ellie, but
I go by Tara.
no. So welcome again. How's your? Okay, if everybody just for a second there. I mean, like if you've watched our last live, Tara got her finger cut. How's that doing?
You know what? It's going good. It's going good. I'm feeling a lot better. I appreciate that. It's going great.
It's going good. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God.
Oh, also, since we're always like talking about, well, at least I am, is talking about the Miss Universe pageants and things like that. Guess who won the 2023 Miss Universe?
Who?
A biological woman.
What?
Yeah, that's a surprise.
Yes!
It's a surprise. I know. It is a big surprise
A
because
miracle. That is genuinely surprising.
I know. I was losing hope right there because I mean,
I know.
the last few people were just like, oh,
I know.
what's
It
happening
doesn't mean anything anymore. Okay.
Well, yeah. Let's get into it. If you are watching us on one platform, I'll give you all the other socials. So, Instagram is 180.shift. Twitter and TikTok is 180shift. YouTube is Shift 180, so just backwards, I guess. Website is 180shift.org, and then Facebook, it's just Tara and then Ellie.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where you can find us there. And for a better experience, Instagram, you can just head over to our YouTube.
You gotta go over to YouTube.
Yeah, so, okay, that's great. And then I think we can start jumping in right now. So I just have you quickly introduce yourself, and we'll kind of just jump in.
Yeah, my name is Alma Mills, and I'm an immigration attorney in Los Angeles.
That's wonderful. And I did meet you at the Apartment Owners Association, right?
Yes.
Yes. So we're glad that you can be here. This will hopefully be very insightful. I think a lot of people don't know the immigration stuff that's happening right now, especially, I mean, for me, I don't know much, to be honest. I don't know about you, Tara.
Well, I mean, I do know just from what, because my husband's dad was deported. So I know just about as much as that situation pertained
goes.
to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
I know for me too as well, because my grandparents, they are all citizens now. They're all from Mexico, all four of mine. So I just know as much as I can from just those situations. I don't think I know everything there, but I'm glad we can have you on to just discuss some things.
Well, I'm glad to be able to share a little bit of insight then.
But I guess just the first off question to start off, what made you want to begin in immigration as an attorney? Yeah.
Yes. That's a good question. I actually have a couple other businesses. So, to be honest, God told me I should go to law school. So I did. And when I came out of law school, I was like, okay, what should I do? I have a background in real estate and in business. So I was thinking maybe do something like that. And a friend of mine from church said, hey, would you like to come help work with me? And he had a firm that did immigration law and some other things. And as soon as I started doing immigration law, I was like, wow, this is really helping people. This is important. And I felt drawn to it. And so, I just felt like this is where God wanted me to be at this time.
Wow. Yeah, so how long have you been working?
In immigration law, about 3 years.
Okay, so, wow, okay.
Yeah,
so fairly recently then, right?
Yes. So I graduated from Pepperdine. I was studying clinical psychology at Pepperdine, with an emphasis on marriage and family therapy, and then started looking for what's going to be my next step, maybe a PhD program, whatever. And it turned out that a friend was like, hey, we need help at my mailbox store. Can you come help us out? I'm like, okay, I'll help you out for a couple weeks. Well, I ended up buying the mailbox store and growing that business for many, many years, and then started getting into real estate and,
Yeah, it's kind of gone from there.
Yeah, God knows what he's doing, but I don't always know.
That's so true. Yeah, and I think you had a question about experiences and things like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so that's interesting. You're also a businessman, but in regards to being an immigration attorney, I was going to ask, what's a story of a case that went well? That's
Great question. We had one recently. Great story. This woman had she had received a petition from her father before May 1st of 2001. There was a huge law change that happened in the immigration world before that time. So if you received a petition before that time, You could adjust status, meaning you could change from an immigrant to a resident without having to leave the country, even though you might have been here without authorization. So this is a big deal that she had received this petition from that prior time. There was some complications. Immigration, USCIS is the name for immigration. They had mixed up some of the stuff on her application, so we were a little concerned. Thank God we were able to get that through. We go to the interview. I went to the interview with her maybe like 6 months ago. We go in, sit down. The immigration official, he starts asking some questions, and she's like, this woman's from Mexico. And she said, the immigration officer says, have you ever been to Guatemala? And she's like, no. Do you know this person? And she's like, no. She looks at me like, what's he talking about? And, well, lo and behold, he's like, well, how come you submitted in 2000, a petition saying you were married to this man in Guatemala? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm not married. And and it turns out there was a notary public. They call them notarios. No, there's a common confusion in the Latino community, especially with new immigrants. In Latin America, a notario is the name of an attorney. A notario means an attorney.
Right, okay.
So when immigrants first come here, they hear, oh, notario, they can help you with your immigration paperwork. And they get confused because here in the United States, a notary public is not an attorney. And they really don't have training to help you to get your legal papers. They have training to affirm you are who you say you are. That's what they do. So either way, this woman was like, oh no, and basically they said, look, sorry, we're going to decline your application because this is fraud, right? You got a work authorization 20-something years ago, and so you're not going to be able to get your papers. So we leave the interview, and I say, okay, don't stress. We're going to get you a waiver, okay?
Yeah.
If they end up denying it, we're going to get you a waiver, and we can use her father, who was a U.S. citizen, as a qualifying relative for a fraud waiver. It's called the I-601. And so we were like, maybe take a year or two, and we're going to get this. So we work on the fraud waiver, and by some miracle, after 2 months, it was approved.
Wow.
And she got her green card a week ago. So we were
Okay.
we were stoked. Because after that, we were like, oh my goodness. And poor lady, she's just like deer in the headlights. What happened? She had no idea that this person had put in this fraudulent stuff. So it's very important that people go to people. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the immigration world.
Yeah.
A lot of people prey on immigrants who are really the most vulnerable people in our society. Right? They don't speak the language. They don't know the customs. They don't have the resources. They're always scared.
Yeah.
Well, I can't ask, anyone for help. What if, they find out and I get deported?
Right.
So they live in fear.
What are some
horrible.
of the ways that we're seeing people prey on immigrants?
Well, one of the ways is by basically, for example, this is one of the tricks that immigration consultants. So I already explained notarios that in general. I'm not saying everyone, but they're not authorized to practice law. So oftentimes you see shady stuff. There are also other types of immigration consultants. In the past, one of the things that they would do was they say, hey, look, I can get you work authorization. So people who are here without authorization and the people, these immigration consultants would say, I can get you work authorization. Let's go ahead and submit this asylum application. Now, asylum is something that you normally have to request within 1 year of coming into the country, saying that you've been persecuted because of your race, your religion, your political opinions, nationality, or membership in a particular social group. And normally people submit that application within 1 year of having entered the country. But the thing that these people would not bring up is that if your asylum application is denied, you get basically on the fast track to deportation. So, you get the work authorization, but then now you're in court. And if you don't win your court case, which oftentimes does not happen, especially if it's questionable like these ones, then now you're getting deported. So it was yes, a lot of shady stuff. And the sad thing is oftentimes it's people from their own country who oftentimes would say, hey, I can help you, you know, and they use that trust maybe to say, hey, you know, let me put the stuff together and, you know, pay me and then disappear. I keep hearing stories of, you know, disappear, like they come back. They submitted my application and then I went back and they're gone.
Yeah. You know, that kind of brings me to my next question was, what's a story of a case that did not go well?
You know, if there's crime involved, it can be a real problem, especially serious crime. So I was just thinking of one to way back when I first started working as an employee in the world of immigration law. And this guy he had like 3 crimes involving moral turpitude. I know it's a weird word, but yeah, exactly. That's what we say too. You're like, why do you make up stuff, guys? Okay, so basically, if you have more than one, basically bad intent.
Okay.
Obviously, the word it's not a clearly definable word, but moral turpitude would be bad morality.
Yeah.
So some types of crimes are considered less bad than other types of crimes. I know, weird, right? But so either way, this person had 3 crimes involving moral turpitude. He had already been declined his petition, and he wanted to appeal. And my supervising attorney at the time was like, "Look, the law's all against us. I'm sorry, we can't do anything for you."
And so what happened to him?
I do not know.
He just
you know, at some point, like, some people just disappear. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you know what? If people are clean, and to be honest, most of my clients are very clean. They have to be clean.
Right. Well, what does it mean to be clean? Like
meaning that they don't have a lot of crime. Definitely. That's what I meant when I said clean. I have some of the best clients, and I think partially it's because unlike people who are U.S. citizens who kind of just live their life, the people who are here undocumented, they know they can get deported, so they behave better than anybody else in our community. I mean, I know people say a lot of things about, the poor, you know, these immigrants are causing this problem. That.
So then what are some falsehoods that we're often led to believe?
Okay, well, one of the number one ones I was hoping to talk to you a little bit about today, I spoke with a researcher just this afternoon named Ezekiel Hernandez. He works, he's a professor over at the Wharton School of Business over in Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania. And he's just releasing a book called The Truth About Immigration. Oh. I had heard a little bit about him from a different podcast, and I was like, I need to talk to this guy. Yeah. So he was just dropping down some great tips. He's basically first of all, he says that story that immigrants drain, you know, jobs or hurt the economy. He's like, it's just false. It's a myth. Mm-hmm. He's like, in 3 different ways, immigrants actually benefit the economy of the place that they go to. 1, in jobs, 2, in capital investment, and 3, in innovation. So one of this, and as he was explaining to me, I was like, wow, this is so important for people to understand. Okay, 1, people think that, okay, an immigrant's coming in, they're going to be taking all the jobs from the people there. Okay, first of all, an immigrant coming in, obviously they do take jobs, but they also provide customers. They are customers. Right? So that means that they're going to have more jobs available. 2, immigrants, when they come in, do they do the same jobs as the people who are here? Not exactly.
Usually not,
yeah, not a lot of Americans want to work in agriculture. Just not a lot want to. So there are different types of positions that end up getting taken by immigrants versus people who are Native Americans, you know? And interestingly enough, not only is this job idea not true, but there's so many innovations that come from immigrants. So one interesting fact, 36% of patents in the United States are by immigrants. Only 14% of the United States are immigrants. So by far, many more patents and innovations, more entrepreneurs. Immigrants are 80% more likely to be entrepreneurs.
Are there any big examples of like a patent or something that's like well known that was actually done by an immigrant?
That's a good question. I know that, for example, 52% of AI PhDs are immigrants. So, you know, we're talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Largely by immigrant population. A lot of Indians, to be honest, in that tech. Biotech, 2/3 of biotech immigrants. So huge percentages coming in with ideas, innovation, which help grow our economy, not shrink our economy. And a larger percentage of immigrants are involved in starting up small businesses, whether it be the laundromat or whether it be the donut shop, ethnic cuisine, right? But they also provide different ideas, like different types of things. They think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Have you guys traveled outside of the country?
No.
Okay. Well, one of the crazy things when you leave the United States and you go to another country, you're just like, how can things be so different? You're just like, I'm so used to it being a certain way, and then you're like, wow, they do it. Like, just for example, I was in the Virgin Islands a couple months ago. They drive on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, okay, this is complicated.
Oh,
like,
I would crash.
my wife is like, you're on the wrong side. I'm like, what? It takes a little bit getting used to. But there's many different ways to do it, and it's not like one's better and one's worse, but oftentimes different. And it helps open your mind to think differently. So in the world of business, innovation is a big deal. And so they found that not only do immigrants that come in provide a lot of innovation, but they even help the people who they're with provide, create more, because they become like it's like they open their minds to other options and kind of expand.
Big thinking.
Exactly, because just it makes sense. I was just one of my employees is from Panama, and I'm a film guy too. I went to film school here at Cal State LA. So I'm interested in Christian film, faith-based film, and stuff like that. So I was talking to her the other day, and she's like, "Oh yeah, in Panama, we have movie theaters that are different than over here. Like we have like spray mist, we have like big lounge chairs. You can go to the nice theaters, like they'll come in with your food, everything." And she's like, I expected it would be a little bit more like high end when I came to the United States. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, we're a little behind on that one apparently. But you see, like, I was like, oh, that's awesome. We should do something like that.
Yeah.
I'm totally interested in like going like higher end film. But this is some of the ideas you get from just talking to people or interacting with people from other countries.
Wow. Yeah. I think oftentimes, I don't know. I think conservatives have like a really set opinion on like immigrants, but they usually specify like illegal immigrants. I mean, we are seeing our borders being flooded with a big influx of people, which is sort of, I would say that's pretty damaging to the ones who are already here and that you work with, right? Have you seen is there any like...
Well, I work with people who just got here too.
Right. Okay. Well, tell me about that, because how does that affect the people who have been trying to get their citizenship for a long time, who have been here, and then people who just got here?
So I don't see a huge impact on people who are recent coming versus people who've been here for maybe 10 or 20 years. My heart really goes out to people who have been here for 20 years. All day long we're talking to people, and there's certain routes to residency. And if you don't kind of fit those criteria, we're just like, I'm so sorry. Like right now, there's not really a route for you. Pray that God, can help change some people's minds so they can open up a route for you. Because I'm talking about like super awesome people, been here for 20 years, paying their taxes, they have U.S. citizen children, but yet they can't. They're like permanently like second-class citizens. It's like serfs, and the way our law is right now kind of keeps them that way. So you thought indentured servitude kind of ended, right? Slavery kind of ended, but yet in some ways, when we have more than a million, millions of undocumented people here in the United States, and they can never be forgiven, right? It's like the unpardonable sin. You came into the country without papers. And so you can never be forgiven. You cannot pay a fine. You can't show good moral character for a certain length of time. You can't, there's never? Like, is this such a horrible thing that you could never become a U.S. citizen? So I just think that's wrong. And I think in some ways it's kind of like bringing back slavery, right? Like, what's the difference between indentured servitude and slavery? Indentured servitude, people would come to America and they would say, hey, I will serve you for 7 years if you pay for my passage, and
Right.
et cetera, right? Well, what's the difference between indentured servitude and slavery? Slavery never ended, right? You were permanently working for this person. Well, our immigrant population, they're permanent. Some of them are permanently, 30 years, 40, some just die. Like that. They've lived half their life in the United States, but yet they still can never become United States citizens or residents.
Now, sorry.
No, I just had one thing. Now, for a lot of us, we don't travel down to the border. We don't really see what's going on there, but, we have to take people's word for it. Like, I remember we went to that RFK event, and he had showed a film where he went there at midnight, and he just, talked to a bunch of people, And I'll just share some things with you that he found, and I'll let you... I don't want to say fact check, but I mean,
well, I don't say I know all the things happening at the border. I'm just.
But I just want to hear your perspective on it, because you deal with it
Sure.
all the time. So, hearing that, okay, is there a lot of criminal activity happening at the border, and are criminals taking advantage of these access ports? Are they manipulate? It's like a game of chess. Are they using this access port where a lot of people are standing in line and waiting and stuff, and then they're using that as a distraction for smuggling in a bunch of illegal substances, possibly children, on this side. So they're kind of manipulating the system. What's your opinion on that situation?
So I'll have to admit that I am not an expert on what's happening at the border. My people come to me after, someone's referred them, or they're seeking help. That said, clearly, it's not a shocker that if you don't have a clear border protection, that anybody who wants to can go ahead and try to bring things through. And we've all heard about people from all over the world coming into the United States of America through our southern border.
Right. We do have a lot of people coming in, not only from South America. We're seeing Africa, Asia, a lot of
Palestine,
right?
Right.
Just
That's
a lot
what I
of
was
Middle
hearing.
East. There's just a lot of different people that are now coming in.
It's true.
That we haven't usually. I don't think that we've seen so many people from those areas come through that side, I guess.
Yeah. And people use coyotes, to basically I guess you would say cartels that are geared towards bringing in people, and they'll try to bring in people, wherever, charge them a ton of money. Sometimes they help them, sometimes they leave them stranded, sometimes, there's all kinds of drama right there, because that's that's a whole illegal crime ring.
So how do you think the government and these politicians should approach people who are, kind of have that ill intent of just bringing destruction into the United States and maybe exploiting things about it?
I think it makes sense that there should be some way to control the entry of people into the country. I just think that there needs to be change in the way we let people in. Right now, if you're from many countries, you don't have an option to come to the United States. That's not really... it's not really available for you. So, because they basically, if you don't have enough money, you don't have a significant, and you don't have relatives here from many countries, you're not going to really be able to get in legally. So that's what I think is wrong. There needs to be a route to people to come to the United States. That's
sorry.
Yeah.
But now you were talking about also forgiveness. Is there a point where you get too soft in being forgiving, of people?
Of course. I don't know about a people, but let's be real. There's a balance of justice and mercy that are required in life, right? God is the same way. There's justice and there's mercy. And I think in some ways that, at least traditionally, I feel the Republican Democratic Party are kind of the same way. The Republican Party is kind of like justice. The Democrat Party is kind of like mercy. And you can have a problem when you have too much of one or the other.
Right.
And I think sometimes the same thing is true in politics. If you have one party dominating a state, it causes problems because there's not that balance. So I do think that there has to be some balance, but there has to be a route to residency is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
For people who live here, are in the United States, they are with us. They sleep next door to you.
Yeah.
How come they can't become a U.S. citizen? We are a country built on immigration.
Now, what things are you saying? Or what thing? Having some mic stuff going on.
Yeah, I just so you know, I am tapping my mic and I don't hear anything. So
so I just what are some ways that you think like if you were able to help in that changing those laws to be able to help fix the route to residency, what are some things that you would implement or say you would like?
Sure, 100%. I would definitely, like, one of the things that we think would be amazing is one, that you have to have a route to residency for people who are here in the United States. We have a huge population that are here that are undocumented. Mm-hmm. They must have some way, whether it be a fine, whether it be good moral character, whether it be paying, taxes regularly, a test, whatever. Something. English, I don't care. But there should be a route for you to become U.S. citizen. This is ridiculous. Like, how many generations, how long are people going to still be undocumented and they can never become documented? Some of them. It's like right now they just don't have a route. Yeah. So some route. Now, if you want to do something more like working around the edges, right now you can become a U.S. Resident even if you came into the country illegally, if you have certain relatives that can help qualify you for what they call a waiver, perdón. Mm-hmm. A spouse or a parent who's a U.S. citizen or resident can theoretically qualify someone for a waiver of their unlawful presence, which means they've been in the country for over a year without authorization. Okay? If we would allow children, U.S. citizen children who are 21 or over, to qualify someone for a waiver, that would be a huge benefit, because there is a lot of people right now who have a U.S. citizen child who's over 21, but since they came in either without a visa or they overstayed there, they usually, if they came in without a visa, and even if they have a U.S. citizen child who's 21, they can't overcome this. Basically, there's a 10-year bar where people they can receive a petition from their child, but they have to wait outside the country for 10 years.
Oh, so if somebody has it's used the word anchor baby, would that apply the same way?
That's an interesting term. But yes, so basically...
Yeah. No, that's the term that I've heard before. I've heard people who are themselves, they say that they are.
Sure.
So.
But if someone has come to the United States and they've lived here for 21 years, because that's probably what happened in that scenario, that U.S. citizen child could qualify them for this waiver so that they don't have to basically stay out for 10 years before they could adjust and become a U.S. resident. That's a working around the edges. But I think there should be something even broader than that. But that would be a nice adjustment in the current. Because right now there's a lot of people who have U.S. citizen children that are 21 years old. They can submit a petition for them. But because they don't have a route to basically clean that unlawful entry, they're stuck with really no real route.
Yeah.
And these are people who own property. They have jobs. They have their kids are in school. Obviously, they're the same as the rest of us, except that they were born in another country and they've come here. Yeah. And if America is founded on immigration, I mean, there's a reason we have the Statue of Liberty, and it's like an icon of the United States, right? Yeah. Does that no longer apply? We don't really. Should we tear it down? That it was built to welcome immigrants, right? That's why the Statue of Liberty is there.
Yeah, I did have a question of how many cases are asylum? How many cases do you run into that are asylum and how many are not asylum?
Okay. So different attorneys do kind of split up their work differently. Some don't do any asylum. I do. We do asylum cases. It's hard to win asylum in the United States. Right now, the definition that the United States is using for asylum is very limited. You have to have been basically oppressed by your home country because of your race, your religion, your membership in a particular social group, political opinion, or nationality. And your government has to be the one persecuting you, or at a minimum, your government is unwilling to protect you from whoever is persecuting you. So if your town is overrun by gangs, you're in a small town in Honduras or something, and basically the gangs run the town. Yeah. And this happens in many places in Central America. So, and you're basically targeted. You know, let's say you're 17 years old. A lot of young people are being say, join my gang, join our gang, or you're gonna die. And you know, your dog gets shot. You know, you're basically like, what am I gonna do? Mm-hmm. That is not. They won't give asylum to someone in those type of scenarios. You know, you have a ex-spouse who's out to get you, and your government's not going to protect you. They're not usually giving asylum to those kind of people. You're only giving asylum really to people from certain countries that are like communist dictatorships, like, you know, or socialist dictatorships, like Nicaragua or something like that, or Venezuela. You know, places that are like really more extreme. But most, if you're even if you legitimately were going to be killed if you stayed in your home country, nope.
Is it because it's hard to prove or something?
Well, no, it's because they've created a definition. Yes, that's a good point. You know, how do you prove it? But they've created a definition right now for immigration that asylum only means that someone is being oppressed by their own government.
So if you're off the grid,
if it's someone who's down the street who's like stalking you and he, you know, he's like, I'm gonna chop your kids up and put them in. Yeah, it happens. And I have clients who've seen it happen, and they're like, you can tell, like, they have this terror in their eyes. They're like, I can never go back. Like, I cannot. Like, and you're just like, oh my goodness. Like, we don't realize how good we have it in the United States of America.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's been eye-opening for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's like, you know, that's, yeah. I mean, I want to speak more on that, but maybe now's not the right time. But I was gonna say, how often do you see people with legal representation? So a
lot of people don't. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, so do you ever come across someone who happens to have legal representation? I mean, the government doesn't. It's not like when you're a criminal and you're like provided it by the government, right?
No. The government doesn't provide legal representation for, like, that would be me. I'm the legal representation. But we do charge people to help represent them. And I think that's the model that's realistic to growing and helping our community. Why do I say that? Unfortunately, there's not enough funds in nonprofits to provide all the services needed. We at Mi Sueno Americano, we are hoping to be able to expand our services and run it more like a business. I know some people maybe don't like that sound, but I'm a businessman. That's my background. And I'm interested in something that's scalable, something where we can help a lot of people get their papers.
So are there organizations for people who maybe don't have the money for legal representation?
Yeah, there are nonprofits. They just have limited funds. And like, I have a friend of mine who works for a nonprofit, and I was asking him about it. Hey, you know, how's it work, you know? And he's like, yeah, if you call me right now, I can give you an appointment in 6 months. So I'm like,
you can get an appointment.
I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, never. I mean, I guess it is, but it's just, I mean, it's just realistic. It's the limited funds.
It is.
You know what I mean? But supply and demand, like the world of business, if we can make our business more efficient and be able to, like, hire more people and kind of reach out to more people in different methods. And that's why we've tried different methods. Like, we have created an app to help people find out if they have a route to residency. It's called Conocer. You can search it, Conocer by Mi Sueno Americano. And you can find out if you have a likely route to residency, you know. And we can do much more than this. I'm hoping we can do more media outreach like this, where we can help share information with people about what are the routes to residency. So that they can overcome, you know, some of these fears and you know, concerns. The other thing we do is we offer payment plans to everybody. So, like, you know, basically we'll charge you a down payment, and then we put you on a monthly payment plan. So as long as you can get together your down payment and you have a job, you know, which, to be honest, most of my clients have a job, you know, something they're doing, they can get their papers. And for the cost of buying a car, you know, you could get your papers. Or to be honest, less.
That's worth it.
Heck yeah, right? No. It's a huge. I mean, we're talking about families being torn apart. I mean, the immigration world, we're talking about serious issues that are, you know, potentially devastating.
To families.
Normal American citizens have no idea. We don't have any idea what it is.
You know, and that kind of brings me to my next question, which is, how, like, what are some common push factors? I know we talked about, like, lives being threatened and stuff, but and obviously like governments like Venezuela where it's just like oppressive, but what are some other common push factors from other countries from, maybe clients you've worked with and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. So definitely persecution is a real thing, people being targeted, a lot of small business owners, which I think is part of the reason a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of these immigrants are great entrepreneurs, because right now in many Latin American countries, Peru, Honduras, I have clients that they've been targeted because they are entrepreneurs and they say, hey, you need to start paying rent. If not, you're gonna be end up in the gulch. And all the clients, they've seen the pictures of these people who didn't pay rent. Right? That's their code word for extortion, right?
Yeah.
So I need this amount of money in a paper bag on the 30th of the month, whatever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it does. It's
really
horrible.
sus, yeah.
Like, and then they're like, we couldn't pay it.
Yeah.
Like at some point we couldn't pay it.
Yeah.
And then they said, we're gonna kill you. We know where you are. We know your son goes to this school at this time in the morning, and your wife picks him up at this time in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And we know you take this road to get to work on a bike every day. So they're like totally tracking these people down.
It's their job, right? Because they get
like-
paid doing it.
That's like a whole entire operation.
Oh, heck yeah. No, these people are, it's crazy. And so I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, you
what
answered
are the other
it.
push
Yeah,
factors?
the other push factors.
So other push factors, though, are finances. Okay, so it's realistic, like sometimes, like one of my clients, he was like, look, I can't pay to feed my family. He's an electrician, and he's like, I'm a supervisor at and I still couldn't pay. It's like, how do you finances are sometimes very difficult. So, and this is what brings me back to why I do this. Like my ancestors, a couple of my ancestors, I wrote about in my website. One of them was William Brewster. He was the chaplain on the Mayflower. So he was in England, and he was part of the Christian Puritan movement, and he was put in jail because of the books that he wrote, the Christian books he wrote that were against apparently weren't in alignment with the Church of England.
Right.
So he left to find religious freedom. So he was basically seeking asylum.
Yeah.
Right? And then another one of my ancestors, William Mills. I happen to have the same name. My first name is William. I go by my middle name, Alma. But either way, he lived in Ireland in the 1840s. Well, there was a huge potato famine.
Yeah.
People were starving. Okay,
Yeah.
they were dying. Like 1 million people left Ireland, either death or going somewhere else. So economics, you need to be able to pay to feed your family, right? Like even if that means you may have to cross a border that you didn't have the authorization to cross.
I notice among Gen Z, and I'm generalizing, Gen Z generalizing. Anyway, but there's just like a lack of, like you said, when you go to other countries and then you come back here, you kind of, you see what other countries have to offer, but you also are aware of what America has to offer. So, so to a lot of Gen Z people who say that America, is a country built on racism and has all these issues and is oppressive because of capitalism. What is your response to them? Like, what if they really choose to go against America's, free market and stuff like that? What would you communicate to Gen Z that they're losing, and is it worth for them to fight for? Like,
yeah. Well, you bring up a great point. Like, it's amazing how we take for granted the things that have always been given to us. We don't really appreciate how amazing America is, which is an interesting point. Some of the most patriotic Americans weren't born in America, right? You'll see them sometimes with their American flags, and they're dying to become a U.S. citizen.
yeah,
Right.
And yet there's people here who have had it their whole lives and can't
hate it, resent it.
Right? Well, a lot of it's been indoctrination, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real. Like, a lot of this has been pushed by just, very extreme educators.
Well, it's kind of ironic because the government funds the education system, and the education system is teaching against government.
100%. I was tripping. I went to Cal State LA for my film degree.
Yeah.
And I remember going I did a Latin American studies class or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember going into my professor's office. She was pretty much a full-on communist. It was pretty crazy. And I remember
And what year was this?
Let's see. I graduated in 2009.
So imagine what it's like now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
go on.
So I go into her office. She literally has like 3 pictures of Fidel Castro up on her wall. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like.
Did she have a latte in her hand too?
I don't know about that. But you know, it's trippy though, because as I'm an immigration attorney, one of the things that I ask people is, are you a communist? Because you're not going to get your residency if you're a communist.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no.
See, that's interesting because
Nazis
you have a
either.
lot of.
No, you can't.
You're saying you recover that tattoo. No, but that's interesting because so many people who are fighting for looser immigration laws, which, by the way, I want to speak on that too, are also very Marxist. Like a foundation of Marxism and kind of idolizing communism. Meanwhile, they also say there should be looser immigration laws. What do you say about that?
I don't even know. Like sometimes I'm weird. I don't understand how certain things get paired together. Like they don't always make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no idea. But obviously, like if you look, all you need to. In Latin America, you have plenty of examples that you don't want to follow, right? Do you really want to be like North Korea? Do you really want to be like Venezuela? Do you really want to be like Nicaragua? Yeah. These are the places that profess socialism and communism.
Yeah.
Why would you want that?
Yeah.
Like people are running away from those places. That's why they don't let people leave Cuba, right? They I mean, maybe they're a little looser now, but people were like, you can't leave. Since when does a country that's doing so well tell people they can't leave? People can leave the United States.
Yeah.
Hey, go if you want to go. No one's forcing you to stay here.
No, that's so true. I worked for a woman who escaped North Korea. Her name is Yeomni Park, and she, it's interesting because she said that her grandparents sold their land for the socialist dream, and it only took a few decades for it to turn into what it is today, which is, the current North Korea. So I think it's important to tell, to kind of translate to Gen Z what's at stake here and how quickly things can turn. And that's why it's like, I know you don't want to get involved in this cultural discourse, but sometimes it's just, you have to. Otherwise, you're going to be forced into it.
Yeah. Realistically, I think Thomas Jefferson said it where he said, let's see, how did he phrase it? He says, if you want a country that can give you everything you want, I'm paraphrasing, you need a government who can take everything you have. Right?
Yeah.
Meaning, how do you expect the government to give you what you want?
Yeah.
It's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from other people, right? So and the more and more power you give to your government, the more your government basically
parents you.
Yeah, they decide whether you can go to that school or they decide whether you can get that medical treatment or whatever else you want.
Right.
So
that's dangerous right there.
How often do you see immigration cases where they are just trying to get onto government programs and we've
Mooch
all
the
heard
system.
of that.
I've never seen it.
So you haven't seen that.
No,
so you've only seen entrepreneurial people who are
workers.
working
Hard workers. I mean, let's be. I deal mostly with Latino clients.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess other people may have different opinions on this. My family are part Latino. We have a lot of ties in that community. When you see people begging on the side of the road, have you ever noticed that there's not many Latinos begging? There'll be a black guy and a white guy, and then there's like this Latina lady selling oranges.
Yeah, selling flowers.
Selling.
Yeah.
She's working. She's got her little business going.
Yeah.
She's not mooching. She's like, hey, how can I help contribute?
Yeah.
I'm providing services.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's the work ethic that my clients bring, that the Latino population brings. I'm not saying that there's no people mooching. Obviously there are. I mean, we're not ignorant of the fact that some percentage of people will always try to take advantage of a situation.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that. I just don't see that really happening.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, of course it happens.
Yeah.
We're not ignorant, but I'm just saying we have people who are working, who are paying taxes, who are really contributing to
That's a
the
good
United
point,
States.
though. Yeah. I do have another question. There's a lot of people who do worry about we do have quite a lot of homeless. I mean, we have a huge homeless problem here.
Yes.
So if we put more attention towards like immigration, are we taking away from the people here? Like, what's your ideas on that, or surrounding that argument?
Okay. So this is my thought on the housing, which yes, it's somewhat related, but also, very distinct.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you anyway, since we're here. I happen to be a real estate developer, right? Some of the stuff we do is, buy distressed properties, remodel them, rent them out, refinance, all that kind of stuff. The reason we have a homeless problem is many reasons, but one of the reasons is because we have a city that does not let us build.
Right.
They are very restricting. They do not let you build. And then when you want to build something, they want to hit you with extra taxes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? They say, oh, you're going to build in a apartment complex here or condominium here? I think we need to widen this road. Why don't you pay for that? Oh, I think we're going to need a stoplight here because, there's going to be more traffic. So why don't you pay for that too? Oh, there's going to be a lot of kids. Why don't you get part of your land for a park right here? Okay. This is how I look at it. I'm like, look, I'm already providing the most desperately needed thing in our city, housing. Why are you going to tax me for all these other things that shouldn't be on the shoulder of the developer?
Right.
These are community people. They need community services. That should be borne the burden by everybody. But they should be giving tax incentives to people to build housing. I mean, it's the world of supply and demand.
Right.
It's not that complicated, right? If you want a price of something to go down, you need to make more of it. Which means as a government, you should be encouraging the development of that. Now, I understand there's traffic concerns. That's fully understandable. Put them in the areas where, there's mass transit, where, closer to jobs. Because just because there's more housing doesn't mean there's necessarily more traffic. If it's placed wisely. For example, if someone right now is working in Santa Monica and they live in Covina, okay, they're going to be on the road that entire stretch every day, right? Back and forth. If that person was able to move into an accessory dwelling unit in the back of a house in Santa Monica, now they're only going to be driving like 5 minutes. And they're not going to be taking up the road all the way from West Covina to Santa Monica. So if we can place housing close to work, close to mass transit, there's a new thing in LA right now. It's called transit-oriented communities, where they'll allow you more housing closer to like the trains and the bus stops. Those type of things can actually make a big deal about solving our homeless crisis. Now, that said, homeless is a lot about other things like mental health issues.
There's
like,
a lot of those things.
I mean, you guys have driven around. You see the people talking to themselves incessantly. Like, I know some of those people are on drugs. We know that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people are also mentally ill or both.
True.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's be real. They're related.
Yeah.
So those are, and now they don't keep people in like they used to. Like, used to be put into like, mental, facilities.
Now,
So that's having impact. Now, back to your story.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to get
Yeah.
derailed a little bit there, but I had to get on my soapbox for a second.
no, but I think you brought a lot of good points to even like the housing, and like a lot of people don't know about that, what happens with developers and like all the red tape, and that's what it's called, right?
It's
Or is
called
it
exactions, those
whatever
special
they're
taxes.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's
But as far as
that's
immigrants
interesting.
go, our immigrant population, they're coming here to work. Okay.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean that they don't have to have a place to stay, right?
Yeah.
But you guys know how it works, right? They're like, hey, do I have any family here?
Yeah.
If I do, I'm going to try to stay with my family. Obviously you've seen it, like where there's houses with many families in one house,
Yeah.
making things work.
Sounds like my
Compared to
house.
where they're coming from. Yeah, let's just keep it real.
So this was actually a question that my husband had, because his dad was the one that was deported. And just to touch on that story a little bit, he came out here on a student visa. He stayed here for like 40 years. He had his son. And then he was getting like fake social security card. He was a computer developer or something like that. So he was a functioning part of society. He paid his rent, but he did get fake social security cards throughout the years. And then I think he voted in an election too. So I know that creates, but anyway, that's a backstory of him. And so I was asking Ray, like, what are some questions that you just have about immigration in general? And he said, well, what do you think about immigration laws, liberal versus conservative stance? Like in regards to the administration and the politicians, do you think that, like what is your outlook on the laws right now, and maybe who's placing those laws? Like,
So your question is really like related to your father-in-law's story of like whether something should have been different there, or just not related to that story.
Well, I mean, to give you more context, because again, that's mainly what I know about immigration. But to give you more context, he was actually very Democrat. He when he voted, he actually voted for Obama.
Okay.
Like, you know, like so I don't know. I mean, is this is like, you know, do you think that the way that it's in place now, like, or like the way immigration laws are in place now, liberal or conservative or whatever, like, just what's your outlook on it? Like, who's doing things right, and where are they messing up?
Okay, know? Good, thank you. I don't think anyone's doing it right now. We have really complicated, immigration is very complicated. Like, some people are here for some, you know, they get in through some loopholes, and other people can't get in even though they should be getting in. I feel like the Republican Party in particular is getting it wrong. I am a Republican, but I feel like the Republican Party is getting this one wrong in a lot of the ways that they're approaching it. And largely the whole idea of the immigrant being a burden on society. That's what I think that they're getting wrong. And I think politically it's really a great opportunity for the Republican Party to make a shift so that they can look for the good people and find what are the routes that we can help good people become part of the United States of America. This is part of our history, right? Our history is an immigrant story. Like I told you guys just a couple of my immigrant story histories, and I'm sure you guys have your own immigrant story. We all have our immigrant story histories.
Right.
This is the foundation and the DNA of America, right? And we're against things like second-class citizens, right? We're against things like serfs or slaves. That's part of who we are as Americans. So I think that the Republican Party, if they really looked at it closely and they looked in their hearts, they would say, you know what, maybe we can find a way to make this work and help our immigrants become one of us. And instead of kind of pushing them away, think about it. The largest demographic group is probably Latinos in the United States, right? Don't you think that would be pretty powerful in elections if you had Latinos on your side? And why, even though Latinos agree with the moral values of the Republican Party, unfortunately, many people in the party are not seeing that and realizing that this is an ally, not an enemy.
Yeah.
And that they need to reach out, and part of it is they need to make sure their rhetoric lines up properly. I mean, I just listened to the debate the other day. I can't remember which one it was, one of the presidential debates, and the moderator from one of the Spanish news stations was like, you know, what's your thoughts on, you know, immigration or Latinos? And nobody had anything positive to say. And I was like, what a golden opportunity, people.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're trying to get the Republican nomination, and they think that they have to, like, have a certain opinion on immigration.
You know, and you were speaking earlier, too, about how you know, with more immigrants who are hardworking and you know, maybe who have merit, like, can actually help America's economy more. But I was going to ask you, too, what about liberal policies? Do you think those are, like, the solution, or, like, more, you know, democratic policies?
Well, some might be lined up with the right position, but it kind of depends. I mean, I don't know all positions clearly. I know that there's some that are just like, hey, let's just not have a border, you know, like, which I don't think that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
There should be a border. I'm just saying that we should change our policies so we allow more people through that border, but through the front door, not like through the river. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So make a border wall. That's fine. I don't think that's anything wrong with that. I think you need to make it so, hey, let's find a route to get people into our country, and let's also help people when they get here to assimilate, you know, how to become successful. That's part of what we're trying to do at Mi Sueno Americano as well, is help people be able to find a way to get a property, find a way to start their businesses so that they can become successful U.S. citizens, learn English. You know, these are things that will help them become successful. I tell my clients, I say, look, you can stay here and only learn Spanish, but you're going to be in a little box. Okay, you can stay in certain neighborhoods, talking with certain people, and only going in certain areas, but you're always going to be very limited. If you want to break free, you're going to have to stretch yourself and try to learn English. That means you're going to have to make mistakes. You're going to have to go to places where, not everyone's going to understand you, and it's hard. But I push my clients. Look, I'm saying, hey, you want exactly. You want to be able to do this. You want to do this. It's going to help you in the long run.
And then just really quickly, what's your opinion too on? I often hear about making it so immigrants could vote and could do certain things, and could be on welfare without even going through the, process of becoming a citizen. I've heard stuff like that too. I mean, what's your opinion on that? It's kind of a
that doesn't make sense to me. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah. No. I think we should help people get their papers.
Yeah.
Get their papers. Why are we doing it's like backwards. Like, why do we have people like DACA, right? I mean, thank God for DACA, but at the same time, it doesn't really make sense. Like, these people have the authorization to work, but they can't leave the country, else they're going to lose. They're not going to be able to come back. They don't have, a route to residency. They could be DACA holders for forever. They got to renew it every 2 years, pay their fee, keep their card, but they still don't have residency. So what's the goal? This is not making sense, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Give them the route to residency. U.S. residency that leads to citizenship. That said, even U.S. residency and citizenship, you still have to have good behavior. You still have to take the citizenship test. You still have to do these things. There's already built in place protections to help, weed out the people who are not really going to be positive contributors to society.
Yeah. Wow. That's really.
That's really
I did have a few more questions.
Yeah,
but I don't think we have time right now.
No, but I think it's been really good. Definitely insightful. I think for me, just learning a little bit. I think, or actually quite a lot. So thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
And we are. I don't know if there's ways that we could find you. Just let us know. Drop that, or just let us know where you can find you.
Yeah, MiSuenoAmericano.org is our website.
Okay.
Great place to find us.
Yeah, that's great. And I believe we are having links to that, I think your website or something like that. I'm hearing on our website as well, so we'll be able to link that up hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
and you can go to our website. It's 180shift.org, right?
180shift.org. Yes, that would be our website there.
It used to be something different.
Yes, it did.
And then Shift 180 on YouTube, and
yes, you're doing it. Good job.
I'm learning.
180.shift on Instagram, and then TikTok and Twitter is 180shift.
Yeah.
So
okay,
there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. No, but we had a wonderful time. Do you have any final thoughts or anything?
Well, I am really grateful for you ladies here trying to spread good, positive messages. I listened to some of your podcasts about with that faith base. I think it's really important, and how it applies in our political world. I one of the things I hate the most is when people feel like somehow God is not related to other parts of life, which is ridiculous. What's the point of a religion that doesn't affect the rest of your life?
Right.
It's like
it is pretty interesting. And I've heard from people that want to keep those separate in their mind, and it's like, how do you do that? I can't do that.
It doesn't make sense.
God.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes, but thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Yes, thank
and I think
you.
we're gonna end it right there.
Yeah, I think we're